few other facts about what happened. The bus accident happened at approximately 8:48 last night. There were 26 total people from Pulaski schools on the school bus, 22 students, 3 coaches, 1 bus driver. As Ms. Ullman mentioned, they were coming home from a volleyball match at Seymour High School. Initially, 6 students were transported to the hospital. The rest were released to parents. There were administrators who were at the hospitals last night, myself included, to support students and families. During this time, others were preparing for a building-level crisis response, which is going on right now, to support students who weren't involved but who have friends who were involved in the accident last night. Our bus accident protocol was followed. As I had mentioned, crisis response teams will be available not only for students but for staff, and that is the information as we have it today. By the way, the students who were taken to area hospitals are now home. We were fortunate in that it could have been a much worse accident, but thank God our families are safe and our kids are safe.
Can you explain in detail what building level crisis response means and bus accident protocol means? You know, those are terms that we don't always hear, so can you explain in detail?
Fortunately, Pulaski has a transportation department with highly qualified staff who've been in place for years. So we have procedures in place that when there are accidents, the notification of families, making sure that we work with highway patrol, that we work with local law enforcement, fire departments, and others in a coordinated response to ensure that not only that families are informed, but that whatever the local municipalities need, whatever police and others need, that we're a partner with them. As a matter of fact, last night I got a compliment that I'm passing on to the district that instead of being reactive to that situation, that when the situation happened, we had a lot of people who knew what to do. And so that's what I mean as far as bus protocol. Another bus was there to pick up the students so that they could ride back here. Parents were notified so that they could pick up the students who were not as seriously injured if that's what they chose to do. All of that is a part of our protocol. And then your other question was? Crisis response. Last night when students were at the hospital, our counselors were discharged to the hospital to help students get through the trauma of having been in an accident. Mr. Jeff Wagner was there at St. Vincent's, was there at St. Mary's as well. So today, if there are students who need to talk to counselors, you know, who are broken up about this or affected on this, we have a team of people that will be in place today and for the next number of days. And as students need that, and of course, families know that we're there to support them with whatever help they need. So it's a team made up of administrators, both central office and building administrators, made up of counselors, and if families need to connect to other professionals, even outside of our district, then, you know, we'll help facilitate that.
And as you were at the hospital last night visiting with those students, describe how they were feeling, what they were, you know, dealing with at that point.
It's really amazing to me how resilient kids are. You know, there were students who were reassuring me that they were doing fine, and that they would get through this, and that, not that it wasn't a big deal, but that, tomorrow things will be fine. More students were worried about getting their homework in, than anything else, and what was going to go on academically at school, which I found very, very interesting. Again, when you're that age, the impact of things really doesn't necessarily hit you immediately. It's sort of a delayed response.
And what was the extent of their injury? As you said, they were minor injuries and they were released last night. I guess, can you describe what types of injuries these kids had?
If you think about a regular car accident, if you think about the effect of being in an impact, the injuries were consistent with that. I'd rather not go into specific detail, but they were typical to the kind of injuries that you would have if you were in a car impact.
You said kids were released from the hospital. Are they back in classes today? Were they excused?
They're excused, and I would imagine that a good number of them are at home. As a matter of fact, we advised them that they needed to stay home for today.
Is that true of the uninjured kids as well?
That I don't know. That I can't speak to. I know, having had contact with the kids who were injured and talking to their families, I know directly that we told them.
But you don't know if the uninjured ones are in school even. I mean, that's
No, at this point, I don't. From the time that I arrived, I've been in meetings and talking to the press outside, so.
Given that you talked about their resilience last night, what is the pressure like on your counselors today? Is there a fair amount of kids availing themselves, the staff members availing themselves of that,
To this point, having talked to our director of pupil personnel, very few have, but we expect that that's going to change.
How do you feel like your student body who wasn't involved in the crash that's here today is feeling? What's your sense from just being around the students today? And also, what have you told them? What have you addressed them about this?
The principal, John Machek, the high school principal, met with staff first of all to give them an update of the latest information, and then went on the PA and gave general information to the students. Along with that, we've used Facebook and social media to where I just don't believe that there's any student out there who doesn't know what's going on. Think about it. When most of us were in high school, if something happened to our friends, there's an attachment there, and people ask why. People want to know how things happen, why they happened, and they want to know the latest on how the students are doing. And by them not being here, although I'm sure that some of the students have their phones right next to them and are, giving out tweets to their friends and keeping them updated. But that's what happens in this kind of situation.
What happens to the girls' volleyball team for the rest of the season?
Haven't had an opportunity to talk to the coach. We haven't had an opportunity to assess the extent of the injuries, or, how it would affect their ability to play. And of course, that's of secondary importance right now. But that's something that we'll look at and talk to the coaches about, and I'm sure they'll assess how that impacts the season going forward.
Is the bus driver a district employee, or is that a contracting service here?
District employee.
And how is that bus driver doing? And
He was broken up last night. You can imagine. He felt horrible about the accident, and our bus drivers really care about our kids. And because we don't contract it out, our bus drivers get to know our students very, very well. And so, he took it very personally.
is he going to be able to continue to drive?
That I don't know. Again, that'll be part of the assessment of this.
Do you have to give students a little extra slack in the next day or two in terms of like things like sitting in the classroom tweeting friends or any of those other kind of things you might crack down on under normal circumstances, or you want to get back to normal as fast as possible? Is that the best thing for the kids? Where do you go on that?
On some things, I think we'll be a little more flexible. You know, you don't want to change all your protocols and your procedures, but we're in the human profession. You know, we care about kids, we care about people, so we'll make accommodations over the next few days that we have to, without disrupting what goes on in the classroom and the focus on learning as well.
And the kids that were excused today, those are just the 6 that were originally taken?
Primarily, those are the ones that, again, we had the opportunity to talk to. There were 6 that were taken. There were a few others that, when their parents picked them up, they also took them to the area hospitals to be checked out. But among that group, those are the ones that, again, we advised, please stay at home. For one thing, they were there until late at night, and so they're going to be exhausted.
And then you had mentioned how prepared you guys were. Has this anything like this ever happened in the past that would have you create a preparedness plan, or what prompted that?
I think, like most school districts, what we've done over the years is we've created contingency plans for all sorts of different situations. And, you know, you practice some of those plans. Obviously, you don't practice this kind of event, but, you know, you talk to other districts that have great plans, and you formulate the best plan that you can, which has steps and procedures, and then when it happens, you adhere to that, and you move forward with it. And I'm proud of the central office team. I'm proud of the high school administrators and others, because when this happened, they immediately responded, you know, going to the hospitals, being there for the families, interacting with the fire chief, the police chief, and others. The high school principal was there when I arrived. The high school principal was, you know, interacting and doing everything that he could, along with other administrators from the district. So, you know, if you have good procedures, and if you're aware of them, if they're not just in a binder, then when these things happen, you operationalize them and you walk through them. And that's what happened last night.
How would they have found out to get there so quickly? I mean, that's probably part of your protocol, but what would have been the first stage that would have got them there so quickly?
Boy, whether it's the bus driver or the coaches, they would have called the high school principal, would have called central office administration, and would have called Kimberly in her office, and then information would have gotten out from there. So, you know, in a day of social media and other things, information gets out very, very quickly. Fortunately, it got out in a very, I don't want to say controlled, but in a method to where it got out to the right people quickly.
Could you talk just a little bit about some housekeeping things? This is day 2 of the school. I'm surprised to hear that your volleyball team was already, is it girls volleyball team, I think somebody said?
Yeah.
This is all girls on board other than the bus driver?
And some of the coaches,
some
yes.
of the coaches. And they're already competing, so they must have been practicing or something since, I don't know when.
Mid-August.
Freshman volleyball coach to my left since mid-August.
And was this the first
No,
tournament?
I think they had 3 games prior to that. That could 2 to 3.
And speaking with it happening on the first day of school, I guess, how has this been an emotional roller coaster this week for the Pulaski community?
Well, having visited all the schools yesterday, we had a great start. Just a lot of excited students, a lot of excited staff. Great first day of school, and then to have it capped off with this it is an emotional, roller coaster, and it's from ecstasy to, to the other kind of emotion. Our hearts go out to the other family, or to the families of the other drivers who were affected as well. We're conscious of the fact that not only were our students and our families affected, but that other people were affected in the accident. And so it's an emotional situation. It's not the way that you want to recall the first day of school.
You mentioned there was another bus that got out there and transferred the kids back to the school. How long did that process take?
If I remember, it was done within, I would say, 45 minutes to an hour. The other thing to keep in mind as far as the rapidity with which you can intervene is the fact that there were fire trucks from a variety of municipalities, police from a variety of municipalities. The area was cordoned off. Highway 29 was blocked at the 32 exit to prevent traffic from getting in. So some of the response and ability to get into the area took a little while. Getting the students out who were taken to medical concerns was primary. You respond as quickly as you possibly can, but in that kind of situation, there are other procedures and other entities who are following their procedures too.